So if you wanted to buy your first house sometime this year, what are the best ways of going about it? It turns out that the US government has a number of programs that benefit first-time homebuyers. And the great news is, even if it's not your first time buying, you can still qualify for a lot of these programs. So in this video, we're going to go over the 3 strategies that you can use as a first-time homebuyer to get the most out of your investment. All this coming right up. Hey there, this is Tom Young with Journex, bringing you the tips and tools you need to master personal finance. On this channel, we do a lot of tutorials about finance and investing, and so if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing if you want to stay up to date with the latest tips and ideas on managing your finances. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably planning on buying a house at some point in the near future, and this is one of the most incredible investments that you could probably make. And that's because there are so many programs in the US that help first-time home buyers and just regular home buyers with making housing affordable. It's something that's been baked into the US system for a very long time. And to give you an example, so in the US, we're actually used to seeing 3.6, 3.7% on 30-year fixed mortgages. But if we take a look at the UK, it turns out that even with a 60% loan-to-value ratio, they are still looking at a 4.24% variable rate, which means the rate can actually go up over time as well. Now, with buying a house actually comes a lot of responsibility on how to make a great investment as well. You want to make sure you're taking advantage of all these different programs. And so here are the 3 things that I recommend everyone consider before buying their first house. And also, if you're looking at a second house or if you're just looking to sell a house and to buy, follow along as well, because a lot of these tips and tricks will help you as well. The first strategy is to know how much house you should buy. And this is something that real estate agents generally don't tell people about because they actually honestly don't know. It's their job to sell houses and not so much to figure out how much you can afford. Now, as a financial advisor, I'm constantly asked, well, how much house can I actually afford? And I tell people that about 30% of their income, their after-tax income, is about the sweet spot of where you want to target. Now, a lot of families will be able to afford more than 30% on housing, but I recommend you as a first-time homebuyer to stay conservative. And that's because it's always easy to upsize your house later on, but it's harder to downsize because all of a sudden you're in a time crunch to get out of a house and to try finding a cheaper place to live. So let's take a look at an example then. Imagine your household makes $100,000 in gross salary, and that comes out to maybe $70,000 after tax. Multiplying that by 30% gives you a budget of $21,000 per year, and just dividing by 12, that comes to $1,750 a month. And that actually gives you a pretty good budget to work with. Now, keep in mind that this amount actually includes everything having to do with housing, and that includes things like utilities and HOA fees and taxes. But this amount actually gives you quite a bit of leeway to work with. So to continue with our example, I like to use a mortgage calculator to figure out how much house you can actually afford. So just if you go to Google and just type in mortgage calculator, you can put in a different amount over here, like say $300,000. And that comes out to a very comfortable $1,400 a month. And that's affordable for our example. Now, if you wanted to work on it the other way around and take a look at maximum loan, you can do that as well. We'll just put in, let's say, $1,300 a month for monthly payments, and it turns out that you could borrow to close to $275,000 for a mortgage. And in most of the US, that gives you a pretty good budget to work with. Because remember, this is just the mortgage as well. It doesn't even include the down payment. When you're considering how much house you can afford, there's another thing you have to worry about too, and that's to beware of hidden costs. Now, it depends on where you live, but taxes can make up to 3% of the purchase price. So in Delaware, you'd only be paying $220 of taxes a month, but in New Jersey, some parts of it, you could be paying over $1,200 a month. The second thing is utilities, which can range between $70 and $500 a month, and it depends on whether you live in a house, townhouse, apartment, or so on. You should also consider HOA fees, homeowner association fees, and for detached houses, they generally don't have them, but for condos and apartments, a lot of them do. And the fourth thing you need to look at is maintenance. And this can be between 1% and 3% of the purchase price per year, but basically your house needs some tender loving care and updates from time to time. Since we're on the topic of knowing how much house you can afford, we should also briefly touch on the down payment aspect of it. Now, this will come a little bit later because it depends on which program you're looking at, and it can range anywhere from 0 to 20%. But the great news is that almost all first-time homeowners qualify for 5% down payments or lower. And this is, again, one of the great benefits of being a first-time homeowner, because you do qualify for a lot of these programs automatically, regardless of where you live. Now, there's a lot of detail that we can go into for first-time home buyers when it comes to finances, and we'll do videos about this in the future. For now, though, let's leave it at that and move on to the next part. Because the second strategy I want to talk about today is what lending programs do you qualify for? And these are things that your mortgage broker often won't tell you because they actually are focused solely on making the mortgage as opposed to trying to find the absolute best deal, the lowest down payment for you. The first thing that you should take a look at are general lending programs, and these are programs that everyone can qualify for. The first one I want to highlight is the FHA loan program, which you only need a credit score of 500 or greater, and you will qualify for a 3.5% down payment. You do need mortgage insurance, but this is a great way for people with low credit to get on that first rung of home ownership. The second program, if you have better credit, is called the Fannie Mae loan program, and that requires a credit score of 620 or more. You only need a 3% down, and the benefit to that is you don't need mortgage insurance. You also can qualify for a 3% closing costs assistance, and that basically means they're just going to cover the costs of closing on the house. The third program are local programs, and check your local website for this because virtually every state, every city has some kind of program that you will qualify for as a first-time home buyer. We just can't go into the detail of every single state, every single municipality in this video, obviously. So really, you have to take a look yourself. So I've put a link into the comments that will actually tell you, based on state and municipality, what you might qualify for. So just take a look at the link below. Now, there are a number of special lending programs that a lot of people can qualify for as well. Now, there are really too many to go through in this video, and so I'm just going to limit it to the 4 top ones. The first one is the USDA loan for rural areas, which involves 0% down payment and a guaranteed mortgage. And it actually covers 97% of the land in the United States, and so actually a surprising number of people will qualify for it. In fact, even people in suburbs, in towns that are less than 20,000 people, will actually be considered rural in some cases. And any town that has less than 10,000 people, you're almost guaranteed that it would be covered by it. Of course, you have the VA loans for military, which means 0% down payment and no mortgage insurance. And if you are part of the armed services, I really recommend you take advantage of that. Another program that's along the same lines as the VA is the Good Neighbor Next Door program. And that covers teachers, firefighters, police, and EMT. And that is actually a 50% discount off home price. And I'm not even joking. That's why I put a nice little circle around the website itself, because there you have it. It's not up to 50%, it is a discount of 50% off the list price of the home. And finally, we have the HUD loans for Native Americans, and the details are there. So I really recommend you take a look at the links in the description below and take a read for yourself to see what programs you might qualify for, because there are just so many programs out there. It's really impossible to list them in this video. You might have special redevelopment zones and places and things like that. But you, as a first-time homeowner, really want to make use of these programs. So make sure you really are being proactive about figuring out what exactly you qualify for. Now, the third tip I have for you as a first-time homeowner is to know what house to buy. How do you make a killer investment on your first home? Now, when it comes to buying a house, there are just so many options out there. Here's a map of downtown DC, actually, of Washington, DC. And as you can see here, it says it's only showing 500 homes. And already we are absolutely swamped with choice. Where to even start? Now, we can spend all day talking about what makes a great real estate investment, but the number one tip that I give everyone is this: choose your neighborhood, not the house. And that's basically means that you choose based on location first, and that's because you can change your house, but you can't change the neighborhood. And also, that's partially because houses depreciate over time, but land maintained its value. So basically, if you bought a really bad house on a really nice block, 30 years from now, no one is going to remember whether that house that you were in was the great house or the terrible house in the neighborhood because you have kept it up over time. Now, there are a number of other tactics as well that you can use to make sure that you're getting the most out of your investment as a first-time home buyer. And if you guys actually have more yourself, feel free to post them in the comments as well. We can incorporate these in next videos too. My favorite top 3 is to buy the worst house in the best neighborhood, and that's because a lot of these houses sell at a discount. And if you take a look at the picture here, you can pretty much see that it's a decent house, but the land underneath it is really what is valuable. The second strategy I tell people is to visit more than one house before deciding. And that's because it's really easy to fall in love with the first place you visit. Now, there might be nothing wrong with the first place you visit, and you may eventually buy the first place. But before you make that final decision, make sure you check out at least maybe 3 or so properties just to make sure that you're making the right choice. Now, the third side tip that I have for making a killer real estate investment is to look for income-producing strategies. And that's basically when you buy a house and you rent out part of it for income. And I actually do know some people who make enough from their rental income that it actually covers their mortgage. It's actually not as difficult as you think. And if you take a look at the very low mortgage, the down payments that you have of 3.5% or even 0%, you're basically getting paid to live in your own house if you can find the right property and rent out parts of it. So I hope you found this training useful, and if you'd like to learn more, visit our website at journix.com. I've also put more links in the description as well if you want to read up some more about buying a house for the first time. We'd love to hear back from you too, and so if you had any great strategies or tips for first-time home buyers, definitely leave them in the comments. So thanks for checking out this video, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this. My name is Tom Young, and I'll see you next time.